we are discussing about the fees must fall issue, and this is an issue which has been affecting us. I think for the past 5 years, we've been having institutions of higher learning hiking fees. They are trying to justify that the expenses that the universities are facing require them to raise fees. But our justification is to say when they want to raise their fees, they have to make sure that the government revises the salaries of civil servants, because the majority of the students that are found in institutions of higher learning are sons and daughters of civil servants, according to statistics. So we cannot have a scenario in which fees is hiked, but the salaries of civil servants remain the same. They are not reviewed upwards. They should first review the salaries of civil servants upwards and then hike fees. And then we're even proposing that the government should pay tuition fees on behalf of the students, so that the students can only cover ancillaries, that those are the expenses that are faced on campus, like Wi-Fi, water, and food and other things that are on campus. The government should subsidize education because we have the resources to do so. Minister Mtuli should stop lying to the country that the government does not have money. We are losing a lot of money due to illicit financial flow. We are losing a lot of money out on a daily basis. Diamonds being looted from Chiadzwa, gold being looted out of the country by specific individuals who are well known. So we have the money, but the money is not being well utilized and well channeled. So we ought to have a strategic plan which is going to see the government of Zimbabwe subsidizing education, so as to make sure that everyone accesses education as stipulated in Section 75 of the Zimbabwean Constitution, which says everyone has the right to education. So when we have a scenario in which a student defers studies because he or she cannot afford to pay fees, that is a problem which needs to be addressed by the government itself, because the government is mandated to make sure that all students have access to education, no matter they come from a poor background or from a rich background. According to the Dakar Declaration, which was signed in Senegal, which Zimbabwe is a signatory to, African countries, African governments agreed that at least 20% of the country's budget should be allocated towards education. But we have seen when Minister Mtuli Ncube gazettes his budget, he gives less than 14% to education, which is also a problem, a huge challenge. I do not know why he is not willing to live up to the task, live up to the mandate which was given by the Dakar Declaration, to say at least 20% should be channeled towards education. Education is underfunded in Zimbabwe, which is resulting in deferences of thousands of students per year. This is not something that we are just saying from the top of our heads. This is clear on the research statistics. We have research papers which indicate that each year, thousands of students defer their studies. And I have my only testimony in our class when I was in level 1 in 2019. We were 62 in our class, but as we speak, as I'm speaking to you right now, we are left with 25 students in our class. Where are the rest of the students? The rest of the students deferred because their parents failed to pay their fees.
The government of Zimbabwe has failed to subsidize the education of our sector in Zimbabwe. Yet we all know that Section 75 of the National Constitution of Zimbabwe provides for education that is accessible to all. And that has been said, you'll probably realize that most of students that we have in most tertiary institutions of higher learning in Zimbabwe are actually deferring due to the fact that they are no longer affording to pay for their exorbitant fees that the institutions are actually charging. I can tell you right now, as you all know, that last semester we've been having a series of protests and demonstrations at the University of Zimbabwe after the institution has just decided to increase fees by almost 700% without even talking with the student representatives to ascertain what is actually happening on the ground. Because as you know, we are the students that are born by the parents who are employed by the same institutions. Our parents, most of our parents are working at the University of Zimbabwe. Most of our parents are working as civil servants, and the salaries that they are getting is not enough to suffice to cater for the tuition fee that the institutions are charging. So that has been said, you'll probably realize that you can go beyond any means to raise for the tuition that the institutions are charging. As I speak right now, we are on the campaign whereby we are mobilizing our resources through a GoFundMe to cater for tuition fee for a few number of students whom we realize that among us, those who are applying for those who have situations and backgrounds back home that are not enough to suffice the ground of substantiating the reasons why they should have enough fees that they are being requested by the institution. So that on its own will be enough to suffice the reason as to why we are having these fees massive for campaigns. And the state of education that we are facing in Zimbabwe. Because you'll probably realize I would like to concur with what Mkoma Alisa was saying here when he was saying, you know, the level of education that we are even getting in this state-owned institution is, you know, you can't compare it with anything. It's something like, you know, it's a higher tertiary education institution that is offering services that are archaic. You know, if you are to look at the rankings of the most of the institutions that we have here in Zimbabwe, you'll probably realize that the University of Zimbabwe, which sometimes we can call the best institution in Zimbabwe, is being ranked at number 1,448, if I'm not mistaken, in the world university ranking. So that on its own will tell you about the services that you are getting after having paid the exorbitant and the skyrocket.
It's so worrisome to note that in terms of education, Zimbabwe's education is sinking, and it is at its worst right now. It is in its worst state, and we still believe and hope as the Zimbabwe National Students Union that if all stakeholders, all relevant stakeholders, live up to the task and respond to the task well, they can contribute to make sure that we save our education system from the current mess. Because when you talked about accommodation, this is a huge crisis at every institution of Ireland, be it a vocational training center, a teachers college, a polytechnic college, or a university. Universities do not have the capacity to harbor or to accommodate students on campus. Hence, students end up being overpopulated in campus. You have a small room, but you see 6 beds in that room. Students are overpopulated in the same hostel. You end up having sewer pipes bursting because they are not designed to carry such a number of people. And then most of the students we're talking about, let's talk, for example, about the Miller State University, the university which I come from. The Miller State University, the last time I checked on statistics, we had over 32,000 students. But if you look at the hostels that are available on campus, you might be forced to laugh, although this is not a laughable situation. More than 15,000 students reside off campus, and the university is not doing anything to make sure that it regulates the rent house that are paid by students off campus. It doesn't care. They simply don't care. What they care about is to make sure that you pay fees. These have become monetary institutions. They no longer care about the welfare of the students. They no longer care about the well-being of the students, even their security of campus. So you end up having students paying something like 120, 130 to reside off campus, which is near some kilometers, a few kilometers away from campus. Some even go far from campus, some kilometers, 10 kilometers, 12 kilometers, where they are forced to so the girl child has been exposed to a sexual exploitation. Some of the landlords requesting sexual favors from our girls, so as to offer them accommodation. This is one of the huge challenge as we look at this issue of accommodation. This is an issue which actually needs to be a topic on a specific day, and we talk about it because it is a very huge crisis. I just studied Midland State University, but if you go to University of Zimbabwe, the same thing in Mount Pleasant, you know, it's medium density, and rentals are so high as we speak right now, and the students are forced to some of them are residing in Chitungwiza, transport challenges. You have to go to town, then find transport to go to Mount Pleasant, to go to university. So this is even affecting the quality of our education because students are missing lectures because of the accommodation crisis, in which I believe that as a short-term solution, universities should design boards, even polytechnic colleges, they should design boards which regulate rentals off campus, because we cannot have landlords changing rentals willy-nilly. They just meet in their WhatsApp groups as landlords and say, no, as for KMP, we are now raising rentals to 130. And then it goes like that. All landlords are now charging 130. And as a student, you are desperate. You want to learn. So you are forced to pay that specific amount of money. Yet our parents do not have enough money to make sure that they cater for our expenses. Then when you touch on issues like Wi-Fi, this is a huge crisis. I can see the other students who have joined, they can confirm that our universities have deteriorated to the extent that they can't even offer simple things like Wi-Fi. We just need stable Wi-Fi to make sure that we do our assignments properly, we do our research, we study, but we have been failing to do that because universities have failed to secure stable Wi-Fi. Even when it comes to the lecture rooms, you see students fighting for chairs, fighting for lecture rooms. This has been happening. I saw it happening at the University of Zimbabwe. I saw it happening at CAT. I saw it happening at my own university, which is the Midland State University. Students struggling and scrambling for lecture rooms. The university does not have enough infrastructure to cater for the students. So a lot needs to be done, and the government should start developing a strategic plan to make sure that students have enough accommodation in institutions of higher learning. And again, another challenge that we are currently having is the issue of transport. We have universities like Great Zimbabwe and the Midland State University, which have a plethora of campuses scattered around the surrounding areas. In Gweru, we have Batanai campus. For Midland State University, we have the main campus, we have the Tier 1 campus. Students need transport. We have buses which are supposed to be there ferrying students from point A to point B. At the Great Zimbabwe, the same thing. We should be having those buses ferrying students from point A to point B, but that has not been happening. It happens here and there, maybe once per 3 weeks. So this is a huge challenge. You end up, because we come from very different backgrounds. We have a lot of people who are coming from rural areas to universities. So for that person to be paying $1 in the morning and $1 in the evening to and from campus, that is not sustainable. You end up having students not attending lectures because of that. So this is another issue which needs to be resolved, and it needs an urgent solution because it is affecting students as we speak.
I had a BSc degree, right, in 2019. When I applied for masters, I was told my BSc degree is same level as a college certificate, because Zimbabwe did not take part in sort of like, there's an international meeting for universities, things like that, and then our degrees were not recognized as BScs. Although we also have things like attachment, we have things like you do projects, like we do ama thesis, right? So because we did not have anyone representing us, our our degree certificates were recognized as just college certificates, for example. So this is stuff that I think we do not have anyone to represent us in some of these things. I don't know if we don't have delegates. There are sort of like important issues that actually, even after you learn, you realize out there, you are still not recognized. After you put all that effort, 5 years into learning, you are also reduced to just someone who just has like a 3 year certificate at a college. In the issue of I think infrastructure, you realize our universities, for example, uh, at some point they're now building like housing institutions at NAS. I realize they are pushing that, and then they're also developing the NAS library, for example. However, these benefits are going not really into improving the education of Zimbabwe. The money which the students will be paying at the end of the day, they are benefiting certain government individuals, to say. And also, we used to have a situation where students were actually getting sort of like loans after learning. Like after you finish your degree, you would get a loan for you to start up maybe an organization or something. These are things that have been overlooked over the years, to a situation where we are now paying fees. I'm being told there was a time in 1999 when these universities were running. Instead of student paying fees, you'd actually go to university, and at some point you'd be given grants for you to learn. Like they'll be paying for your fees. You'd get funding for you to do maybe a certain project here and there. But it has come to a point where we are now paying fees. Even during attachment, you have to pay fees. Like, what fees are you paying because you're not in school? To the lecturers, are they earning directly from student fees, or the government is paying lecturers? And fine, I do understand that there's a need for money for the universities to run, for maintaining buildings, other maintaining costs, things like electricity and all those things. But however, if you bracket all those things in one go, you realize that a lot of money which is being paid for fees is not really directed at maintaining the universities. Some of the money is things like graduation fees, for example. We all know that this is where most of the institutions are making money. For, I would say, most of that of those funds are put into corruption, but we do not have institutions that are looking into it. You cannot say ZEC should look into corruption of monies going in universities, because already they're targeting things like elections that are oncoming. But there's more issues which are actually not really that small, because a lot of money is being squandered in corruption with the governments, these institutions. We do have innovation hubs at universities, and these innovation hubs, they are like, now in a community, if someone puts a huge chiral, and students or children cannot go and play inside, and they say this is where you're supposed to learn, this is where you should play as kids, develop soccer skills, things like that. But then they put a huge girl on the big gate with a big lock that you cannot get in. You cannot expect talent to actually come out from there, because you've put all these big gates where you're expecting people to go and learn from. We have innovation hubs, for example, the one at NAS, and trust me, it doesn't feel like an innovation hub. There are so many students with so many talents, especially I'll speak about NAS because I know about it mostly, but innovation hubs are almost in every institution in Zimbabwe, a university institution. And this is where students should be going to explore their talents. If you want to design a drone, you go there. But I feel like they put so much, like, big walls, big walls, where you cannot actually go there and try and innovate and bring any idea. And it comes to a point where I feel like this should be the spaces where students can be innovative enough to bring in ideas. Also, in terms of, after all has been done and people are now innovative and all that, we don't have grants for students to be doing research, for example. Say I'm doing a master's, I'm being fully funded in a university from university funds. I'm not even paying the fees, but because I'm learning and adding stuff into research, I'm being paid by the university. In Zimbabwe, it's not even a topic for discussion. There's no way where you can actually go and say, I want to apply for a certain grant, so I do my research. I'm doing my research in Wange National Park in Zimbabwe, being paid in a different university in a different country, even to a point where I'm given funds for partaking, like things, research in the field. But we don't have that form of like a place where you can apply it in Zimbabwe and say, I want to do research in Zimbabwe. There are even more doors which are closed for me to go and apply. Must have a permit for me to go and do this research where I'm adding on to knowledge in this same country. And in Zimbabwe, it's difficult.
So we need more platforms like this where we engage other students who can think properly and impose solutions and try to come up with strategies of resolving the problems that we are facing. And you see, I was just highlighting the issue that are affecting the student on campus, but he even highlighted, he went further to highlight challenges that students are facing after campus life. So these are issues that I've noted them down, and we are going to make sure that we make them part of our campaign and make sure that we come up with a strategic campaign which is going to speak to those issues and make sure that they are addressed. Because we are not just going to push as a students' union, we are going to make sure that we also involve other stakeholders which are so keen to see our education system improving. So we are going to make sure that we put on board all other stakeholders who believe in the cause, who believe that the education system in Zimbabwe can be better again. So thank you very much, Teddy. We've taken note of that, and I think we should communicate here and there and share strategies on resolving the education crisis in Zimbabwe. Zimbabwean education will be at the top once again. I can assure you that. In terms of accommodation, I think earlier on, if you were following, I indicated that we have proposed that our administrations should create boards that regulate rentals of campus. And we have written letters to different administrations through our chapter chairperson, because we have chapters at every institution, at institutional level. So we have assigned our comrades there to write formal letters to the dean of students and kickstart that conversation of having boards established to tackle that challenge and make sure that rentals are regulated. If it is 130, maybe we have something reasonable like $90 or even $80, because that is a lot of money looking at the current situation that is in Zimbabwe. The US dollar is not easy to find, and I think we can have such a reasonable amount being pegged for rentals. So when it comes to issues of Wi-Fi and transport, those are issues that, of course, we cannot jump into other solutions. The first solution that we have as a students' union is to make sure that we engage the involved stakeholders, so as to make sure that we exchange ideas and make sure that we come up with strategies of resolving the challenge. So we have already kick-started, for example, at Chinhoyi University. We've already done that through our SRC. It's so fortunate that we have our guys in the SRC, the president, the secretary general. They've already kick-started conversations with the administration on how to resolve the transport crisis, and we are receiving information that they are having positive response from the administration. And in terms of Wi-Fi, we are proposing that the administrations should make sure that they secure more Wi-Fi routers and spread them around campus, so as to make sure that students have enough access to internet, because we cannot be talking about such a challenge in this era. We can't be talking about that at a university. Wi-Fi challenges. No, that should not be it. This is an era in which there's a lot of technology, and in institutions of higher learning where innovation is supposed to be happening, we cannot be having Wi-Fi challenges as one of the major issues. So we have an approach which we have designed, which speaks to the issues that are affecting the students, which is campus-based. At every campus, our comrades are engaging the administration so as to make sure that each and every challenge is addressed. And at national level, we are not sleeping. We are engaging with the relevant stakeholders, particularly Mr. Murwira's office, who is the Minister of Higher and Tertiary Education. We have been knocking their doors, and we managed to meet them, and we are still hopeful that our issues are going to be resolved. We are still hopeful that our cries are going to be heard. And another strategy that we have on the table and that we have already used at the University of Zimbabwe is a court challenge, because some of those decisions can be challenged at court. But we are not saying that should not be the case. We should be able to sit and agree on solutions or resolving our problems without dragging each other to court. I cannot be happy to be dragging a university to court, but if that is the only solution that we are left with, I'll be forced to do that. And we have already done that at the University of Zimbabwe in pushing our Fees Must Fall campaign. We ended up hiring a lawyer through the Zimbabwe Lawyers for Human Rights to make sure that it becomes a legal matter. But those can only be the last solutions, and even action. We can start having action statements like what we did at the University of Zimbabwe. You saw students demonstrating. Those are last resorts. When we try to engage, when we try to understand each other's and the key exchange and cross-pollinate ideas at a table, and the administration remains reluctant, it fails to give an ear to our issues, we make sure that we go radical and drag them to the table. Because if they are not willing to talk to you, drag them to the table. And you can only drag them to the table through action on the ground and cause them to believe that the students are rallying behind such a particular idea, and we have to give the students an ear. In your last statement, you talked about the economic crisis, the current economic crisis. Then we go to the root causes of the current economic crisis. Who is causing this crisis? Is it that we, as a country, we are poor? Is it that as a country we are cursed? No, we are not cursed. No, we are not poor. I disagree with that motion. We are a very rich country. We are not poor. We have the resources. We have a lot of money that is being harvested from our mines. We have a lot of money that is being generated from our agriculture. But where is that money going? We are talking about the channeling of funds. How that money is being channeled, it becomes the most.
I think it was good, at least, to see that students are very concerned with their issues in terms of advocacy and also in terms of student mobilization as a community. But how do you get there for a protest? To me, is the challenge. Why do we have students to protest when already we know that the government has money to subsidize education? So it still goes back to the government that it is not prioritizing education. So it's that thing what first you must protest so that we give you what you want. You must first be arrested so that we are able to react to whatever you want. But it's an inspiration that at least there are young people that are mobilized, who are conscious enough to understand that if we don't speak up, no one will listen to us. There's nothing for us without us. So I think it's a 5-star to all the students who participated at NAS demonstrations. And the good part is that they were victorious in their protest, and the institution managed to commit that no, we made an error, a blunder, but also it shows the incompetentness of the administration. And such is that there's no innovation at institutions of higher learning. When a whole incubator of academic excellence post on their website or portal wrong information, then it questions who's running the administration, it questions the capacity of the institution, and it exposes the quality of education that that institution is offering. Henceforth, we go back to say, if you did your engineering at NASP, your bachelor's, they call it honors. But once you want to come and do a master's at VETS, at UJ, Stellenbosch, they will tell you, no, you must do a postgrad diploma because your certificate is below standard. It is because of some of the ills that this institution portray. How can a proper intellectual hub just fail to post a proper information and say, no, we pasted wrong information? So it exposes the quality of education that is there. And I think students were very sharp students, very brilliant students, but also the administration must change. This thing of having elders still occupying position of influence. For example, if you look at the hierarchy of NAST, you will discover 60 years, 70 years, even if not even 80 years, you find them there. But why not take these young people who are still energetic, very smart, and still have innovative ideas to offer in terms of capacitating the institution? So basically, it's what I can submit for now. Thank you.